Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everybody to another episode of Meet the Experts, as I like to call it, the anti-podcast, for lots of reasons, but we don't need to go into that today. But what is Meet the Experts? If this is your first time ever seeing one, or you're catching this on YouTube or on some social media channel and you're like, I don't know what's about to happen. If you run a small business, or if you're self-employed, manager, expert in your field even, what Meet the Experts is designed to do is give you a platform to talk about yourself, your business, your customers, your clients, what makes them tick, what makes your products and services unique, what are some common questions you get, and a couple other things. It's really just a chance to give yourself a platform, a nice easygoing video interview. It's a media appearance, and it's free. So I'm not going to tell you now, but if you watch till the end of the episode, I promise at the end of the episode, I will tell you how you can be a guest on an upcoming episode of Meet the Experts. With that being said, I want to mention that Meet the Experts is now powered by Journey Builder. Journey Builder is our all-in-one CRM and marketing tool. It's a software. It empowers small business owners to be able to nurture customers from the stranger phase all the way through to the raving fan phase, stay in touch with those people, automate a lot of your processes, manage and automate your marketing. And the cool thing is we also can manage it for you. So if you're interested in Journey Builder, also stick around to the end or just email me, j@jvimobile.com. And with that, let's get on with today's episode. Today I have Jessi Beyer joining me. She is an award-nominated international speaker, and she's a #1 best-selling author of How to Heal, a practical guide to 9 integrative therapies that can help release trauma. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. You're also going to get a link at the bottom of the screen in just a little while with where you can go to check out that book. She has a master's degree in critical psychology and human services from Prescott College, and outside of her professional life, she enjoys exploring the trails of the Pacific Northwest with her dog Phoebe. And I just found out she also did a mud run recently, which I've done, and they're really cool. Anyway, without further ado, let me get Jessi up here. Jessi, hi, how are you today?
I'm good, Jay. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. It's awesome. And, reading your intro, I'm like, wow, she's so smart, and she's done so much. And I just think that, I think writing a book is very cool. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about that as well. And I'll let you talk about that as well as we go through. But I'm glad you were able to join me. I know you're 3 hours behind me, and I know you have a hard stop in a little bit. So let's dive right in. Tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do, maybe outside of the bio.
Yeah, outside of the bio. So it's funny, I always kind of start with that one-line bio that you read. So thank you for starting me off with that. I think if we're looking at me as a business owner, there's kind of 2 main avenues. There's the writing and then there's the speaking. So from a speaking perspective, I work with a lot of different college campuses, conferences, corporations, some first responder and military organizations as well, talking about a variety of mental health topics. A lot of times that falls in kind of the peer support side of things. So for college audiences, that's a lot of times how to be a good support system, how to take care of someone who's struggling with mental health. And then for more of the first responder military side of things, it's suicide prevention, it's how to safety plan, it's how to recognize signs of suicide and things like that. And so really helping people not only take care of their own mental health, but take care of the people around them. What I've found through those types of speaking things is that if I show up with a presentation that's like, take care of your own mental health, how to treat depression, how to heal from trauma, people are like, I don't want to go to that, because then they're self-identifying as struggling with those types of things that unfortunately are still very stigmatized in our society. But if I can kind of slide it under the door with, hey, you're going to be a great friend, or you're going to help someone else out with this, that gets a lot more people in the door. And then not only do they leave with knowledge that can help themselves, but knowledge that can help other people as well. Then kind of, as I mentioned, the other side of my business as a writer, I wrote a book. Jay, you already introduced that, so I don't have to go into that too much, but that really focuses on different types of natural and integrative trauma therapies. A lot of people call them alternative. I have feelings about that word that we can talk about if you want or not, totally cool. But it looks at things like nature-based therapies, animal-assisted therapies, and then kind of movement-based therapies, and how those can be really beneficial in addition to or in place of talk therapy for healing and treating PTSD.
I love the angle that you just said about, who wants to go to that workshop where you feel like I'm self-identifying as having all these issues, but trying to be a better friend. I love that angle. Like, come at it from like, you can be a better person and help those people that you know are struggling, whether that's you or not. It's kind of like, it kind of is, it lets people take their guards down a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So outside of the book and the speaking, let's say somebody wanted to work with you. What are some of those services look like, and who specifically do you hone in on to help?
Absolutely. So I want to be very clear. I am not a therapist. So I am not going to take one-on-one clients. I also don't do mental health coaching. I feel, again, that's another thing I feel strongly about. There's a lot of things that can come up if you start pulling at trauma and past history without a knowledge of how to hold that space for that person. So in terms of additional services beyond that, I will occasionally do kind of one-on-one consulting for other business owners that are looking to publish a book, that are looking to write. I've done some ghostwriting in the past. Those are not, I'd say, the main focuses of my business right now, but I do offer those, especially if it's, someone who saw me speak and they're like, hey, I want to write a book. How do I get started? Great. Let's have a conversation. Let me walk you through what some of those processes might look like. Or if it's an entrepreneur I've known for a while, maybe I've been on their podcast, whatever that may be, that can be an opportunity for me to be like, yes, let's talk about writing, or how can I edit this for you? Or, hey, I think you need to fix this. Let's see how we can work together to do that. So it really is kind of the writing and the speaking that are the primary elements. But if there are other people that are like, hey, I want to become an author, how did you do it? I don't want to use brain picking sessions because it's not exactly like that, but I do offer up my calendar for people who want that type of support, becoming an author or a speaker themselves.
I love that. I actually was just at a 2-day workshop in New Jersey last week called Heroic Public Speaking. It's HBS Core. Michael and Amy Port run it, and they, Michael's written like 8 bestsellers or something, or 6 bestsellers, but it was all on like how to be a better public speaker. But also they were talking about how writing a book, how that kind of positions you easily as kind of the expert, and it gives you some reason for people to want to hire you to speak because you've got this book and people are interested in hearing it from the author's mouth. So I think that is as you were saying it, I was like, maybe I need to talk to you some more about that, because at some point I would like to do a book, and I'm always kind of intimidated by the process or daunted. But it's funny because we've had authors and publishers on before, and so the more I learn about the process, the less daunting it feels, because I've realized that there are shortcuts and easy ways you can take to getting it out. It's not like you just got to sit down and start writing. You can really brainstorm and pull things and then just put them together later. So.
To that point, I mean, there's so many different ways to write a book. I know everyone at self-publishing school, one of the methods that they talk about, not to steal their material by any means, but one of the methods they talk about is speaking your book, and then you can transcribe it if you prefer to speak versus write. I'm very much an old school author. Like, I want to write it myself. I want to have pages and pages of notes with little arrows drawn between this, that, and the other thing to connect these different ideas. So I'm pretty old school, but exactly like you said, if you are kind of intimidated by that process, or maybe you don't think you're a very good writer, or you're like, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to fill, 200, 300 pages of material? There's lots of ways to get a book done. And the important part is that you are taking your story and your expertise and putting it out into the world in a way that other people can learn from and benefit from.
I think that's exactly the most incredible way. And yeah, that's what I've been hearing about. A lot of people doing voice dictation and transcription, and then other people writing, and then other people just kind of taking bits of knowledge and notebooking and brainstorming and doing that. So very, very fascinating. So I'm going to get to another question in just a minute, kind of diving into more of your backstory about that. But before I do, I'm sure, obviously you get speaking gigs, right? So you get to go speak and you get to talk to people and you have your presentations that you offer. The question is, obviously you don't get invited to another place, or people don't invite you in one place unless there's some type of recommendation or testimonial or some win that you've been able to provide in somebody's life. Do you have like that one testimonial, and you don't have to give names, but is there that one testimonial that kind of keeps you getting up every morning and being like, this is why I do what I do, that you could you could call out?
Yeah, definitely. It's more a story than a testimonial, although there is a testimonial from this woman on my website if anyone wants to go digging for that. But early in my speaking career, I reached out to a school. It was a really tiny school in the middle of nowhere, Texas. Honestly, I was just going like Wikipedia, colleges in Texas, boom, 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 and like reaching out to everyone that I could find. And so I had no real reason for reaching out to this campus aside from the fact that they were on the Wikipedia list of schools in Texas. So I reached out and I was like, hey, I'm a speaker. I talk about mental health. Would love to see if we could work together, a little bit better pitch than that. But that's kind of, I just reached out. And this woman wrote back to me and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you emailed me. She was the director of student life. She was like 25 years old. She was really young. And they had just had a suicide on campus last semester. And they had no school counselors. They were in a really tiny town. There may have been like one therapist in that entire town. And so she was saying that all of the responsibility of handling the emotional challenges of all the students who had survived that fell on her. And she's like, I'm not a therapist. I'm a director of student life. Like, I was an athlete in college. This is not my area of expertise. And so I was able to come in and talk about peer support and how to get through situations like that. And if another person expresses suicidal ideation, how do you support them through that? Different topics like that. And I just got this really lovely testimonial from her afterwards saying, kind of telling that story of like, hey, this is why we brought Jessi in. This was the backstory. But then thank you so much, because now I'm not the only one carrying this. Now my students know how to support each other. I feel more confident that we're able to make it through another instance like this. And frankly, this is probably not the best thing to say from a business perspective, but when we were talking before I went down there, she was telling me this whole story and I'm like, I'll come for free. Like, you don't even have to do anything. I did get paid. It was a paid presentation, but I was like, my goodness, like I want to help. I want to be a part of this story and this healing. And then to get that testimonial from her afterwards really just meant the world to me.
I think you said something important, or you said several things that were really important in there, but one of the things you said, and I think it is okay as a business owner. I think as a business owner, yes, it's important that we get paid, and it is important that you got paid for that gig. But I think if we're doing something that we're passionate about, we should feel like we would do that for free, even though we shouldn't do it for free and we should get paid. We should, if we have such a deep passion for what we do, then it's okay to say, hey, or feel, I would do that for free. You don't necessarily need to say that, but,
Yeah.
but you know what I'm talking about. I think that's like, there are a lot of times where I do things or I say things where maybe even I've charged a little less just because it meant so much for me to be able to help in a particular situation. That and it's kind of it's like a rubber stamp of approval, or not approval, rubber stamp of just what I do is important and I really do believe in what I do. So I think those feelings make me want to say, look, Jessi Beyer is like, she is in the right career. Like, she is doing exactly what she should be doing. So I think that's powerful. It's a powerful thing that you said. And keep running with that. I think that's really cool.
Thank you.
I want to dive backward a little bit in your educational life, because you don't just wake up. I know I talked a little bit about it in your bio. I want you to kind of elaborate on that. I call it the earned it, learned it, improved your authority. This could be titles, certifications, degrees. How did you get to this point? Like, what kind of education studying has brought you to this place in life?
Definitely. My educational journey is a little bit non-traditional, perhaps. So when I was in high school, I was a math nerd. I was literally like doing math competitions and then like Trigstar stuff. Like, I was all over it. If anyone knows Trigstar, please DM me. We'll have a good old laugh about that. But I was a massive nerd in high school. I was not really this kind of touchy-feely psych person. But what happened in high school was that I started really struggling with my mental health. I was also in a relationship with someone who is really struggling with his mental health. And so I learned from experience, which I think is maybe the earned it part of what you just said, about depression, about anxiety, about self-harm, about eating disorders, about suicide, about peer support. Like, I was living that as a 15, 16, 17-year-old. And it was really, really, really challenging. And so when I graduated from high school, I sat down with my mom and I was like, Mom, I need help. And she's like, okay. And so we found a therapist, and it was a pretty traditional talk therapy setting. I went to one day and I felt so incredibly comfortable with the modality and the small dark room and the tiny window and the couch and just the whole thing. healing that I literally ran out of the building and I never went back. And so I spent kind of the next couple of years going through this healing journey on my own. I mean, I had some friends that I could talk to, but no professional support, no one that I could really work with in that capacity to heal from those events. What happened was I went to undergrad at the University of Minnesota. I studied psychology because I'm like, well, I mean, I have this personal experience. I'm passionate about it because I have this personal experience. What the heck? Let's go for it. And I took a class on nature-based therapies. And it completely blew my mind. It was like a random elective. I needed 1 3-credit course, and I just happened to take this nature-based therapies course. And I was like, oh my goodness, there are things that are not talk therapy that can really, really help people. I grew up in the outdoors. I mean, I was the kid running around catching snakes, looking at animal tracks. Like that's how I grew up. And so I knew that there was this massive healing power in nature, but I didn't know that that was like clinically and empirically proven as well. So that really opened my mind to kind of these integrative therapies, integrative modalities, dove into that more in my own personal research, wrote the book, as well as getting my master's in critical psychology and human services. Most people are not aware of what critical psychology is. They think that when I say that I've misspoken and I meant to say clinical psychology. No, it is critical psychology. And basically what that is it's an analysis of the ways in which traditional and mainstream psychology has marginalized certain groups or modalities of healing or approaches to research, or really just anything that they've kind of shoved under the rug and don't want to talk about. And so that degree program was incredibly flexible, and it allowed me to actually design some of my own courses that were related to trauma and crisis intervention or related to integrative therapies. And my thesis from that program was an analysis of why talk therapy fails a lot of people. That's my dog. She's going to come say hi. Talk therapy fails a lot of people, but the American Psychological Association and mainstream psychology still promote it as the best method of trauma healing. And so I look at kind of why they do that and why talk therapy doesn't necessarily work through this feminist and Lacanian psychoanalytic lens. And we don't have to get into all of that, but basically just nerded out about a bunch of the different ways that integrative therapies are really powerful for trauma healing. So that was a very kind of long story in there, but the short version is undergrad and grad degrees in psych, as well as a lot of personal experience with mental health and mental health challenges.
I am 100% glad you said that. I do find that some of the best, most passionate entrepreneurs that I've met, granted, I'll never, ever discount a college formal education. I will never discount that one bit. I find that most entrepreneurs I met are very passionate because it was the school of hard knocks, right? Like they had to go through something or they had to self-teach them something or learn something from just doing it over and over in real world. And in some cases, it's not doing fun work. It's doing really hard life stuff. But I think that what you've been able to do and what you've been blessed with is kind of combining those two to form a really nice career for yourself. So kudos, congratulations. That's incredible.
Thank you.
And that other mix of 3 or 4 words that I can't even pronounce that you said, totally different topic for a different day.
Yes, absolutely. I will spare your audience diving into all that.
All right, listen, Jessi, this is great. I know that it goes fast when you're doing a little short 20 to 25 minute interview. I've got 2 questions left for you, and we'll wrap up. This one's a little bit different. I want to go outside of business. I mean, you could answer with something professionally that you're thankful for, but personally or professionally, if I just said to you, just tell me something you're thankful for, what would your answer be?
Oh, this is going to be such a cop-out since she just came on the screen, but my little pooch behind me is by far the first thing that comes to mind whenever I think of gratitude. I mean, she is my best friend. She is my partner in crime. She's my adventure buddy. I got her when she was 12 weeks old and she's 5 now. And we've just been spending every minute together since. So I'm so thankful that I have her as honestly, I know a lot of people say this about their dogs and everyone is correct when they say this, but it just feels like she's the other half of me. Like we're the same person, even though we're a completely different species. So yeah, she's by far what I'm most thankful for.
I think that's incredible. I'm a dog lover. My family are dog lovers. My wife is a massive dog lover as well. And I get that. Like everything you just said there, I was like, oh yeah, makes perfect sense.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, and I love that you said like that was like your partner in crime and your adventure buddy. Like, just come on, get in the car. We're going to do this. We're going to go for this walk, or we're going to go to this trail or something. I think that's That's awesome too.
Yeah, absolutely. And she gets so heartbroken too. Like if there's a moment where I do have to leave her at home for whatever reason, as I'm putting on my shoes, she's just staring at me like, Mom. And I'm like, it's okay. I'll be back in like 20 minutes. I'm just going to drop off something at the post office. Like she just gets so anxious. But I mean, we love spending time together, so I can't complain.
I had that moment right before we jumped on to have our conversation here. I had to run home because our dog is going to be home alone for like 9 hours today. And we were like, somebody needs to get home in the middle of the day to just let this poor dog outside.
Yeah.
So I did. I ran home from from lunch to get there and let her out. And then when I was leaving again, she whimpered because it was like, wait a minute, you just teased me. You just came home for a minute and you're leaving me again. So I felt bad. And our dog, when she sees the suitcases, if we're going on a trip, like we have a dog sitter that'll come 3 times a day or whatever. We don't like to bring them to board them necessarily. We like them to just be home. The suitcases come out, it's like totally different dog.
Yep.
Like just mad at us. So I get it. Hey, I got one question for you, Jessi, and this has been great. If anybody wants to learn more about getting Jessi's book, the ticker at the bottom has been talking about it this whole time. There's an Amazon link right there. And let's see, I may put that in the comments at some point for the live, but you can also just kind of screenshot that if you're watching and go check out the book, The 9 Integrative Therapies in How to Heal. So one last question. Every business, there is that one frequently asked question, that question you get over and over and over again. And I think as a marketer, it would be really, really cool if every business owner would take time and answer it on video and put it on their website so that anybody can find it 24/7, day or night. I'm going to give you the opportunity to do that. Tell me that one big question and how do you answer it?
Yeah, so this is a good one. We've actually kind of talked about a lot of them, so there are going to be good pieces that I can pull from this to kind of answer those FAQs. But the one, funnily enough, that I get all the time is, what do you talk about? Like as a speaker, what's in your presentation? Which the reason I say that's kind of funny is because I have presentation descriptions on my website. Like you can read past testimonials. Like it's very visible what it is that I talk about. But I think what people are really asking when they ask that question is, what am I going to get out of it? What is my group going to get out of it? Because there's 1,000,001 mental health speakers. You know, unfortunately, mental health is so common, or mental health, everyone has mental health. Mental illness is so common that everyone has some type of story of either them overcoming a mental health challenge or someone they know overcoming a mental health challenge that they want to share with the world, which is phenomenal. But what that means from a business perspective and a speaker perspective is, how do you differentiate yourself? How do you show that you're different? So a couple things that I do that kind of help me differentiate myself. One, if we're a college and we're looking at working together, I have worked with so many different college campuses. I would say probably 80% of my professional presentations have been with a college audience. So I know how to speak that language. I have this thing that I call the doctor in a white lab coat syndrome, which is where you have this 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old PhD, MD, triple MBA, whatever it is that's coming in their metaphorical white lab coat. They are the capital expert and they're on stage. And every single 18, 19, 20-year-old in that audience has absolutely no way of relating to that person because they are on such a different level professionally and personally than those college students. But for me to come in, you know, I'm still pretty young. I'm able to come in and say, hey, let's talk your language. Let's speak how you speak. Let's have this be interactive and fun and not like another lecture that you're sitting in for already, 20, 30 hours a week. That makes me much more relatable and much more effective speaking to a college audience. The other thing that I'll say is that kind of on the other end of that doctor in a white lab coat syndrome, I do have the education to back it up. This is not just my personal story that maybe is inspirational, maybe is going to make you feel good for the next day or week or maybe even a month if I'm really, really, really good. But I have the education, I have the professional experience to give you the how-tos and the what-to-dos to make not only your mental health better, but the mental health of the people around you better as well. So if we're considering working together and you're like, okay, great, Jessi, like you're just another mental health speaker, how do I know that you're different? Those are two ways that I'm able to not only relate to that audience that maybe other speakers can't, but also bring that level of professional experience and education that a lot of just inspirational speakers don't have either.
Awesome. You're hired. That's great. I love that, the audience that you can relate to, and that that audience can relate to you. It seems like it's been well thought out, and like, go after it. And there's probably more business out there than you could ever possibly handle. So it's an abundance thing. It's a blue ocean for you. And I love that kind of your unique. I think in terms of marketing all the time, like your USP, you know exactly who you need to get in front of and what you need to say, and what makes you different and unique. So yeah, that's a lot. We covered so much ground. That was a lot of fun, and I really, really appreciate you for taking some time out of your day to come and talk on Meet the Experts. I can't wait to get you the video and get this pushed out to everybody who might want to watch it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jay. I appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. Stick around backstage. I'll be right with you. That was fun. Jessi has I love the kind of that bubbly, happy personality who is obviously talking about, some pretty important, deep, critical stuff, and knowing her audience it spoke to me, just because I think that's so important, that as business owners, we know our audience, we know who we can get in front of, and we can make an impact. And that's really, really cool. I did promise that if you stuck around to the end of the episode, I would tell you that if you want to be a guest on Meet the Experts, just head on over to meettheexpertspodcast.com. That's Meet the Experts with an S, podcast.com. Go ahead, read all about it, tell you what you're going to get, what you won't get, what you could pay for if you'd like to, or just come on the show and we'll give you the videos, and you can do whatever you want with them as quickly as a day or two after the episode. So just head on over there, learn all about it. I've got a couple more episodes coming up back to back this week. So just be on the lookout. There's going to be several new live pre-recorded episodes coming out over the course of the next couple weeks. So be prepared. You're going to hear and see a lot from me with some really, really cool, fun, entertaining guests. So until next time, have a great day. Thanks for checking out Meet the Experts. Talk